Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Hello, everyone. I see some happy faces. I see Mr. DeVellis waving. And as I start the meeting, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. And I do see a few people signing on the call as we speak. So my request, if you will, is if you could remain muted. I know that I'm being a little bit disrespectful by muting everyone, but I did allow you to unmute yourself. Hopefully that will not be necessary, as we have two very special people joining us tonight. Mrs. Maracanda, she is the East House leader, and also she will be monitoring the chat room, if you will. And we also are very fortunate to have Mrs. Chaparro. She is our bilingual parent coordinator and outreach worker. And she would actually be translating in the chat room as needed. And I also want to be very thankful of Ms. Chaparro because she actually translated the slides from English to Spanish. And after tonight's meeting, I will be able to actually forward those slides to our Spanish speakers, but also to our English speakers as needed. So before we go on, I want to share with you that after our last meeting, we actually developed, based on the chat room, probably 6 different themes or areas, if you will, that became prominent based on parents' questions. So tonight, what I really would like to do is focus on those 6 groups of questions as we developed our conversations and see if I could respond to as many as I can. I want to give a little bit of preamble, if you will. I just got off a meeting with the task force with the superintendent. So we had the opportunity to discuss some very last minute items I'll be able to share with you tonight. So it was really good timing to have a meeting with the task force before tonight's meeting. So I also want you to know that our new teachers, today was their second day. They came to work today for a second day, mainly training as new teachers. Roton Middle School has about 14 new teachers this year. It is the highest number of new faces we have ever had in Roton's history. And that is mainly due to some retirement and a few resignations. So once everything is finalized, we will also share that with you so that you will know exactly which teachers are in which house as we begin the school year. For your information, tomorrow, all teachers are back. So all our teachers will be back tomorrow. They will have a very busy day of professional development. They will also have a busy day on Friday. Tomorrow will be a little bit different, where they will have some convocation remarks by the superintendent and guest speakers. What promises to be a very exciting school year, if you will. And then next week, we do have a few days to continue with professional development, but also to get our classrooms ready. Just so that you know, once we left on March 13th, there are many teachers and staff that have not been back in the building. So these teachers, when they come tomorrow, it will be the first day back since we left school on March 13th. I kind of get chills, I kind of get goosebumps on my arms because it will be a little bit different, if you will, for our staff. And I could just imagine also how differently it will be for our kids coming back. So it's a little bit of excitement, but also a little bit of anxiety, if you will, that everybody is sharing. But with that said and done, to be respectful of everyone's time, I will go right ahead and move into those 6 themes, if you will, that we were able to put together based on our conversations from the meeting, which actually took place last Monday. It's interesting how time flies. So let's talk for a few minutes. And by the way, this meeting is being recorded so that if you have friends and family that would like to see it, once tonight is over, we will make certain it will get posted. And also it will actually get posted on the website that the district holds with the slides, if you will, so that it will become information that everybody could actually access. So at this point in time, let's kind of start really with our first slide, which is really our first interest this year. Safety comes first. So, and I know that education is extremely important. That's what we're here for. But I think we're going to do that together as parents and teachers and staff. But safety is extremely important. So these bullet points will address those questions that came through the chat room that maybe need to be redefined as we go along. We will have time at the end of tonight before this 7 o'clock time to address whatever questions may come up again. So all students and staff will at this time, wear a mask in the building and also on school grounds. Mask breaks will be given by the teacher during planned times. Preferably will be outside. So teachers will have the flexibility to certainly have mask breaks. It's not going to be a mask break every 10 minutes. It's going to be a mask break as needed, depending on the conditions, depending on the room, heat and room climate, if you will. But we will be very, very open to needed mask breaks in a day. At today's meeting, one of the things that came up from the health department is that if a student does not have a mask, we as a school will have masks to provide those students. But that could only happen so many times because eventually we're going to run out. The other piece here is that we are not going to be able to allow masks that have holes in them because that will defeat the purpose. And I know there have been some creative students and creative people that have come up with a mask with holes, put a straw through it, holes on the side, but that will not be allowed. We will have hand sanitizers located in each classroom and other locations. As a matter of fact, today I walked around each classroom at Roton Middle School, and every room has had them installed. We also installed them throughout the hallways to make certain that kids and staff have the opportunity to do so. The item that I'm just going to mention to you, I just added to the PowerPoint maybe 5 minutes ago. That item says the HEPA ultraviolet filters will be placed in every room. We got those today. So my custodial staff will put them in the rooms beginning hopefully, the next few days. These are very expensive ultraviolet filters, and they are actually almost like the size of a coffee pot. And what they will do, they will constantly filter the air and collect particles, and the filters will need to be changed every so often. But it will really improve the air quality in the building. Also going to mention to you that we have air conditioning installed in every classroom. We are not quite finished yet. We have about 75 to 80% of the work done. We will finish the work by sometime in the middle of the end of September. But the great thing here is that we are going to have air conditioning at Roton Middle School in every classroom, including the cafeteria, which we already had installed, and the learning commons. We want to really improve air quality here at Roton Middle School. I met with Mr. Hodel just before a meeting with the superintendent, and he was pleased with the way Roton is looking, but we do have quite a bit more stuff in classrooms that we need to remove. So we're going to do some removal of old books and materials so that the rooms will be as clean as possible. We are talking about social distancing all the time. So both our staff and our students will be 6 feet apart. That is time. It is true in the hallway when we pass. It will be true when we are outside. It will be true in the classroom. We have big desks in the classroom 6 feet apart. So I want to make sure it's very clear. We could have more than 12 students in the classroom if needed, as long as there is substantial amount of space that will clearly indicate that the desks are 6 feet apart. So that work has begun for us as we move forward. All students will hand in at the beginning of their school day, every day, the medical screener, which is completed by the parents. I met with Mrs. Fayos yesterday. She's the new director of school improvement. And when she and I met, we were talking about the possibility of having parents do that at home, and really, where parents and students could download an app and do that, and it will show Empower School in the morning when kids come to school, instead of collecting it every day from the kids. As it stands right now, we are going to probably send that at home to you, either via an attachment or a hard copy. It is a one-pager, which is going to ask questions such as, gee, do you have a fever? Do you have symptoms of a cold? Do you have a runny nose? And certainly those are very important for each and every one of us as we admit students to school each and every morning. If the app is not going to be ready on time, our responsibility will be to send enough copies of that document, at least enough for each week as the hybrid groups come into the building. I also want to make sure that, students, you should know, will not be sharing any supplies or materials. That is a very, very important item because we are used to having kids sharing papers, sharing books, sharing supplies. We are really not going to be doing that. So that we really want to limit even the smallest possibility of having kids and staff infected, if you will. Now, what about arrival in the morning? Well, we had some questions at the beginning of our meeting the last time we had the chat room. Students will enter the building each morning by house throughout the designated doors for each house. I want you to know that I could be very, very specific, but we talked about not giving graphics and not giving too many pieces of information for safety reasons. But just so that you know, each house will have a separate entrance. We will have signage at each entrance, and students after the first day or so will be used to which way to enter the building. And the whole idea here is we do not want to have students that will be mixed, and that will be very difficult to trace back. Signs will be posted. We will have staff that will be outside on duty and in the hallway, especially the first week of school to direct kids. We will also will remind the students each and every opportunity that we get. Students will exit the building right through the same doors at dismissal time as the end of the building. Dismissal will be staggered by grade, by house. It's going to take people, you need to be patient with us because it's going to take a little bit more time to really get the kids in the morning and to actually exit the kids out of the building. because we are not going to dismiss all kids at once, right? We're going to be very systemic in our way of doing business that way. So that means that we'll have a little bit more passing time as needed, and we're going to need a little bit of time at the beginning of the day and the end of the day to get the kids in the right place at the right time. Also, very important questions come up about lunch and recess all the time. So students will wash their hands before lunch and also after lunch. That was a very important question that was asked. We really want to train our students, our staff. Really, I shouldn't say the word train. We want to really make sure they do this. Students will also eat lunch with their cohorts in the classroom. Let me explain what that really means. What that means here is that if I was a sixth grader and I have missed the lake for language arts, and it's now lunchtime, I will be having lunch in my room with those 12 kids that are part of my cohort. So I will not be going to the cafeteria, I will not be mixing with kids in the lunchroom, and I will not be having the opportunity to select food that is not wrapped. So they will eat in their room. Now, students could certainly bring their own lunch, if you will, from home. And students will get lunch from the food table located on each floor, individually wrapped. I met with Kevin McGee yesterday. He's in charge of food and nutrition. We walked around the school and we decided where we're going to have the food table on each floor. Just so that you know, each house will be on a separate floor, which means we will have food tables on each floor, and also houses will eat at different times. To minimize the number of kids, there may be a recess or in a hallway at that particular time. Certainly, students could bring their own refillable water bottle. So as of today, and I want to be transparent with you, we have yet had a water filler installed. So as of this moment, Roton does not have a water filler. The other 3 middle schools have one each. But as of this afternoon, when I met with Bill Odell in charge of facilities, he was able to get people here, and they are working on installing those water fountains where kids could actually fill the water bottles. This is cold water that kids could actually fill water bottles with. They will not be able to drink from the fountains. They will not be accessible, but they will be able to do that. Our goal is to have this done by next week so the kids can reap the benefits when they come to school. We will have designated bathrooms for students by house. So for example, if I was in the West House and I was on the 3rd floor, I will have a designated bathroom for the boys, one for the girls, and one for the staff. We at Roton are fortunate to have those possibilities. So we also, not to be graphic, but for example, in the boys' bathroom, we covered all the urinals because boys cannot use the urinals. There will be only 2 toilets without seats that they could use for urination, if you will. And there will be one with a seat that could be used for other purposes. But that is extremely important because we want to be able to be proactive as we move forward. Again, there will be signs to remind our students. We received signs today. At Roton, we have 3 great house leaders. We met for the past couple of days, and we have met and we talked about signage that's needed. They're going to make signage for the classrooms, for the hallways, for the entrance and exiting of the building, and that will be very helpful to our kids. Students will have designated area for recess, if you will, by cohorts. So I want to share with you that the teachers will be supervised at all times. So as the kids may be having recess outside, let's say by the front door in the field, that will be only 3 cohorts of kids at a time, only by grade level. So a cohort may be 12 kids. Now, there are 3 cohorts in grade 6 in every house. Because the kids eat by grade, by house, the highest number of kids that will be at lunchtime at recess will be 3 groups of 12. And they will be social distancing the whole time. Very important point to keep in mind, if you will. All right. So the biggest question of the year continues to be, what is a cohort? Initially, I was in touch with the state, the superintendent many times, my colleagues. The definition of a cohort is as general as you may want it to be. So let me explain, if I may, what a cohort is going to look like at Roton, just so that you know that all 4 middle schools are a little bit different. We have fewer or more kids for each grade level. Some of the classrooms are a little bit smaller by square feet. Some of them are a little bit larger. So every building is a little bit different. We have many entrances at Roton where other schools may not have. So when we talk about a cohort, it is clear to me, if you go back to the first slide, safety first. So we want to make certain that a cohort is comprised really of a group of students that will be together for at least 3 blocks of the day. That means that the average cohort will be 12 students. Why 12? Well, keep in mind that if we have a class of 26 students, we split that class into Group A and Group B with the hybrid model. That is now 13 students. But we also have about 20% of Roton student population that has chosen to learn remotely, which means they will not be in school. So that makes a cohort between 10, 11, 12 students, and they will consist of a cohort for language arts, for math, for science, and for social studies. So that means that for the first 3 blocks or for 3 blocks of the day, I'm going to be with a cohort of 11, 12 other students, and I will not move out of that classroom. The teachers will move out of the classrooms. So that means then that we could actually really have a few more minutes of instruction, because we have situated all the core teachers right next to one another. So if I were Mr. Lake, Westhouse, grade 6 ELA teacher, my math block is now over. Now I'm going right next door, let's say to teach, language arts to the next block. And there are 3 rooms right next to one another. So the teachers will go from room to room to room, eliminating really the movement of students in a hallway quite a bit. You're looking by 80% because we have 4 cohorts. Okay. 4 blocks. So with that said and done, what does it mean about choices? How did you choose the cohort? Think, people, I truly believe that for kids to learn, they need to be in a rigorous program. And the most concerning program that has come to my attention when it comes to rigor is the level of mathematics. So we do have different levels of math. We have Common Core, we have Accelerated, we have Pre-Algebra, we have Algebra, different grade levels. So what we have done, and we are just about finished, we have then cohorted kids by math. What that means here is that if I am in Common Core Math grade 6, I will be with Common Core Math grade 6 students in my class for math, language arts, science, and social studies. If I am in algebra, I will be in algebra with my same peers for math, language arts, science, and social studies, and that also includes gifted and talented. So what that means now is if you could envision a class of 24 kids in algebra, you divide that by 2 and you get 12. So we're going to have group A, 12, which may come in the first 3 days of school, and group B, the other 12 algebra kids, they will probably come in the next 3 to 5 days of school. So it gives you a pretty good idea of how contained movement will be. The next cohort, which is different from what you and I talked about the last time, was the cohort for related arts. I share with you that I've received many emails regarding related arts. As a matter of fact, we met with our superintendent, not yesterday, we met with the superintendent on Monday afternoon. And the middle school principals and the superintendent talked very, very clearly about related arts. Initially, my plan at Roton Middle School was not to have kids go to related arts, but get related arts instruction in the same room that they would get in the academic subjects. The only problem with that would be that there will be kids in that room that may be taking Spanish, French, Chinese, Japanese, art, music, physical education, and they will be taught whatever choice they had in related arts by a related arts teacher with a set of headphones and a laptop. So they will be learning virtually, but will be kids in different rooms learning different things at the same time. Many parents' concerns were, gee, if I have to send my kid to school and learn French, in a remote way, then why come to school? That has a very resonating effect on me. And when we met with the superintendent, we have agreed that we should have kids receive their related arts within the constraints of the social distancing and safety, but have the kids go to their related arts classes. So at Roton Middle School, we have 2 cohorts. One is the academic, 12 kids per class, and they will be the same 12 kids from math, language arts, science, and social studies. They do not move, the teachers move. But then for those 2 periods, which is only 1 block a day, they will go to French, they will go to Spanish, they will go to Chinese or Japanese. They actually will go to art. They will go to digital literacy. How big are the classes? Well, they cannot be bigger than 12. And gee, who are they mixing with? Well, some of the kids that they are in the same math class with, maybe a few different kids, but they all will be in grade 6. So that they will not mix by grade, by house. We are really refining that. We are very happy the way that's going to look. Now, when you hear other schools, they may be doing a little bit differently. So there may be one school which says, wait 1 minute, you're not going to get choices this year. You are going to only have maybe 10 weeks of French, maybe 10 weeks of art, 10 weeks of music. I strongly believe that Roton students deserve choices, that I, as a student, should go to the elective that I've chosen, and I should go in those electives the allotted time. So at Roton Middle School, electives are a semester, which means a half a year. And like we have done in the past, they will get those within the constraints of safety and social distancing. So when you look at Roton, we got 2 cohorts. The core cohort, 12 kids the whole day. And then we have 1 block where other 6th graders may be in the same class when it comes to related arts. Let me explain for information. This is hot off the line. We just got it before our meeting today. I put down about band and opportunities. Band and chorus are our biggest groups. For example, we have about 68 kids that taking chorus in grade 6. We have about 60 kids taking band in grade 6. It is not safe for them to be singing. It is not safe for the band students to be playing their instruments, even though they may be 6 feet apart. We received some information from the superintendent today where the state guidelines are now really saying that we got to be very careful. And now our Dr. Katona, who's in charge of arts in Norwalk, actually has suggested that, band, chorus should really be done remotely. So what does that really mean at Roton Middle School? It may mean the same thing in other schools. So the kids will still go to band in a small group because we're going to cut everything smaller, but they will not really be playing instruments until they get home. So they will need to keep their instruments at home. And as you recall, during remote learning time, we have Mr. Soos, who did a wonderful job with the ensemble program, where remotely they put together amazing performances. The same goes with Miss Didone. So while the kids are in school for band, music, if you will, chorus, orchestra, they will be learning theoretic approaches. They will do as much as they can to learn about certain music, styles and music requirements. But when it comes to really working on their instruments, it will be done remotely. Now, we also talked today briefly before this meeting about maybe staggering, maybe a couple of teachers where they may come into the building a little bit late and they will be available and allowed to, do some work with kids once they get home remotely, where they could give them the extra attention that they may need. That will be coming soon once the school staff returns completely. We'll talk a little bit more. But band and chorus are certainly items that deserve a lot of attention, and it's actually our largest group. What about information? I know there's never enough information, and I know that the moment we talk today, things may change afterwards. So the best way to keep informed is really to get information, right away about what group and what schedules. So for example, you need to know if you are hybrid, what group are you in? Are you the A group or the B group? So we have played with the idea of dividing kids by letters of the alphabet in their classes. We looked at A through M, which is Anthony through Mary. And that could be cohort hybrid A. And then we took a look at the kids, and it looks like maybe N, like in Nancy, through Z, could be group B. It works extremely well, with the exception of a few students, which means we are going to be probably calling you to say, even though Joe Vellucci said A through M is group A, your son is going to be placed in group B for a couple of reasons. One, because as a parent, you have more than one student coming to Roton and you want them maybe in the same day. And also we are looking at the high school schedule. They're going group A and group B. And some of our families have kids that go to the middle school and high school, and they're saying, how could my son in grade 10 have one schedule and my son in grade 7 have another schedule, which means I can never get to work because of the A-day, B-day schedule with the group 1 and group 2, which is group A and B. So with that said and done, I am a little bit hesitant about sending specific information. We are working with Gene Starkman, a central office, when it comes to scheduling. My promise was that, and I'm talk to Mr. Velez every day, and I know I'm pushing him every day. But by the end of this week, I need to send our families something so that you can start planning. And definitely, you know, by Monday, we need to show you exactly what's happening with that. What you're going to be getting is actually saying, you know what, welcome, you know, this is what we're doing for Group A through M. This is what we're doing for Group B, you know, N through Z. And this is when Group A comes, and this is when Group B comes. So we will provide you with a calendar. I have 3 different calendars ready. Right now, neither of those 3 may work because we're waiting for our meeting with Dr. Costanzo tomorrow at 2 o'clock. He's going to have high school principals, middle school principals together to look at the schedule so that our schedule will be very, very similar, if not identical, to the high school schedule, if you will. The other way to communicate here is as soon as the scheduling is done, you will then be able to go on Power School during the next few days and look at your son's schedule or your daughter's schedule and say, okay, here's my daughter's schedule. She is Group A. Today is a B day, and these are the classes that she has. These are the rooms that she's going to be in. So you will have the information right in your hand at home. And certainly with the high group A, when they come in on September 8th, we will also give them a hard copy of the schedule. We could even do the same for kids and families that have a hard time with internet connections. We could certainly send hard copies as needed. House leaders are going to be pivotal communicators. They know they need to communicate with you and all families regarding materials that they are going to be asking students to bring into school. And remember one thing, we are trying to go digital almost 100%. We really do not want kids to pass papers. We really do not want students to even drop paper on the floor and pick it up and not knowing what may be on the floor. So digital learning and teaching certainly is going to be extremely important. I had a question from parents today about books. The information about books is that if we are giving a student a book to read, to take home, that book, once it's returned, cannot be shared with another student for 3 days after it has been sanitized as much as possible. So you can see the if you will, the extreme sensitivity that comes with handling materials. So house leaders will be communicating with you as soon as I would say maybe tomorrow or Friday, so that you will know exactly what some of the information is that you need when it comes to, gee, what do I bring to school? On that topic, questions about students using lockers. Students will not be using lockers. That is something that I've been asked a few times today. So students will not be putting materials in their lockers. What we will be doing when the kids come to school in the morning, they enter through the assigned door. They will go to their advisory, and they will have their book bag under their desk. And if they have a jacket or a coat, we'll provide a spot in the room. And then they will be there for 80% of the day. And when they move to their related art class, they will bring their book bag with them so that they do not have to go back at the end of the day to their advisory. So what that means here is that I would need to communicate with families as much as possible. It is my style to communicate with families weekly or more frequently. I know when we went through remote learning, I was communicating each and every day. I got a little bit of pushback from families, not all, just a handful. and say, Mr. Vellucci, it's a little bit much. So then I had other parents in Vellucci, we appreciate you communicating with us every day. But once we get started, at least at the beginning, check your emails. I'm going to be communicating frequently once we get going, and then I have more information to share with you. So make that a priority, if you will, so that you will then be on top of things. And that also includes information from the house leaders. They will be communicating with you quite a bit. We are very lucky at Roton that we have an amazing PTA with Emily Grabowski as a PTA president. We have an amazing school governance council with Betsy Mettler as a co-chair. And because, Betsy is going into the high school next year, we will be looking for a new co-chair for our school governance council. But they will be communicating with you. They will be posting their minutes on a web page. We post our minutes on a website, so you could access that. So communication is going to be extremely important, if you will, because, things change daily, as you know. So what should people know? Well, people should know that communication from your house leader, hopefully this week. And if it's not this week because the data department downtown hasn't been able to complete the scheduling, then it will be probably first thing on Monday. Please feel free to contact the following staff with specific questions. For example, Mr. Lake is our West House leader. Once you know what house your son or daughter is in, he is the go-to person. For example, if you are a returning 7th and 8th grader, you already know the house that your children are going to be in. We haven't changed anybody's house but one student, and this was for specific reasons. But so if my kid was in grade 7 East last year, I'm going to be in grade 8 East next year, which is this year. The only ones that may be at a disadvantage would be grade 5 to grade 6. And those are the ones that we're trying to finalize so we could then at least tell the families, these are the houses, and then you could certainly expect communication from the house leader. We have Miss Small, who is a new counselor at Roton Middle School. She is actually taking Mr. DeBella's place because Mr. DeBellas is now the full-time AP at Roton. As you know, Mr. James is now the interim assistant principal at Brian McMahon High School. We also have Miss Maricanta, who is our East House leader. And she also, again, will be a good person to communicate with the East House. She's also a member of School Governance Council. And we actually have Miss LaRose, who is a counselor for the East House. She's replacing Miss Tremonti that retired. We then have Mr. Jackson. I don't know how many of you know Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson is a social studies teacher, grade 7 and 8. He is now the new leader, if you will, house leader for our central house. And Mrs. Pratt is our counselor for the central house. So these are people that you are going to get to know very well because they're going to start communicating with you very, very soon. Mr. DeBellas is our assistant principal, and certainly he has been charged with the task of overseeing the scheduling process. That was something Mrs. James did last year, and Mr. DeBellas has taken the leadership to do so this year. A key person to communicate with is Ms. Marmo, our school nurse. So please email. She will be in touch with you. She will be back at work tomorrow, and all information that's needed, parents will know, and actually feel free to reach out to her, marmo@novaps.org. But all that information will be available to you, if you will, extremely important to keep in mind. So what about, some of the other information that we kind of, when it comes to buses, if you will, keep in mind that we have 5 buses that service Roton. And we also have 2 small buses that carry other students. And it's going to be a little bit of a challenge in the morning, but we are asking as much as possible for the buses to be staggered a bit so that not all of them arrive at the same time. But that may be the case, and we're going to have to make sure we really are out there helping with the entering of the building. You know, when I met with Ms. Feo this morning, yesterday morning, we talked also about asking parents if they will be interested in maybe staggering, dropping off kids at school in the morning. We talked about maybe grade 6, maybe at 8 o'clock, maybe grade 7 at 8 o'clock, grade 8 at 8:10. But I also know the parents, have their own jobs and they may drop off kids anytime. But that would be a help. So we don't have all the kids being dropped off by the buses and by the families at the same time. Questions come up about busing. So, gee, we are doing cohorts in the school, 12 kids per class, but yet all the kids take the bus. Well, the buses will be at 80% capacity. So instead of having 40 kids, you may have 50 kids, you may have 40 kids on a bus. They will load the bus from the rear seat to the front seat using front doors. So as a student, I get on a bus, I'm the first one on the bus. I'm going to go in the back of the bus and take a seat. As other students come in, they will follow that pattern all the way up to the front. And when we dismiss kids from the bus, it will be the first kids sitting up front being dismissed, and then the other students follow. Again, 6 feet apart as they are being dismissed. Again, they will wear masks on the bus, and they will practice social distancing as much as possible, just so that there may be a situation where a student may not have a mask at the bus stop. Our hope is that we will have masks where the person helping on a bus will be able to provide the student the mask. What about lanes that we have at Roton? Well, we have 2 bus lanes, as you know. One is for buses and one is for drivers. The bus lane is only used for the buses, and the drivers are only going to be using the second lane, which is the drop-off. And this will be, again, in front of the school. We're lucky we have a great SRO and Officer Abruzzini, and we also have a great cross guard, Tony, who's out there helping with students that may cross. But I think it's extremely important that we follow those directives when it comes to transportation as well. Students take the bike. We will have 2 bike racks out there. My suggestion is the kids should bring a lock to lock their bikes. And hopefully we will have a few students, if it's a wonderful day out there, to ride the bikes to school. And I want to make one more point, if you will, about transportation. Our largest group this year is grade 6. We're going to have about probably 220. We have right now 226 6th graders. A few of them are from other schools. So that means they do not get transportation to Roton. That means the parents are responsible for dropping off and picking up students. So that kind of adds a bit, if you will, to the traffic congestion that we may have. My hope is that parents will work, articulate with one another, and maybe do some, carpooling as much as possible within social distancing, if you will, if it's, feasible. So with that said and done, I want to say one more thing before we go to the questions. I have a very important quote with a picture in my office at home. It's really a spare bedroom. And right over my desk, there is a picture of 3 girls kind of huddling together. And these are sisters. And what it says at the bottom as they are sitting on a bench overlooking the sea, It says, we may not have it all together, but you know what? Us together, we have it all. And that is really my philosophy, if you will. As of today, we probably do not have it all together. I will not be transparent to say to you, I got the answers for everything. I don't. But I think that together with our staff, with our parents, with our families, with our kids, we're really going to have an exciting school year, whether you're learning remotely, whether you are Group A or Group B in a hybrid model. I think it's going to be an exciting school year. And I really, really think that teachers are excited to be back and teach. And I think that our kids are excited to be in a hybrid model. And those kids that are doing remote learning, they're excited to get back and learn as much as they can, because they're going to be learning from the same teachers, the same curriculum, the same work that students are learning in the classroom. So if I was Joe Vellucci, I will follow the same schedule if I'm home that if I was in school. So, what do? Well, I log in or through Google Classroom, ClassLink, that's what we were using at, between 8 o'clock and 8:15. And then 8:15, I have my advisory period. And then, you know what? At 8:55, I am in that room learning math. And then I'm learning language arts. I'm learning social studies. The kids that are learning from home are following the same schedule. And they will also be going to their related arts classes remotely if they're home. So that if I am Group A, I'm learning the same stuff from the same teachers, the same schedule as Group B that will be coming in to say the week after, that also the remote learning group is getting. That to me is really powerful. That no matter which is your learning modality, you are getting the same program from the same teachers. So I think that, as I said, if we work with one another, if we are, problem solvers, we're going to have it all together before the beginning of the year. And you're going to help me make it all work by making certain that we work together as a team. So with that said and done, I am going to actually at this time, I promise that you're going to have a little bit of time, if you will, to go to the chat room and to address some of the questions. So before we even do that, it is my intent to at least meet with you again next week, if not once, maybe twice. So I see that on the call we have over 100 some people, but please spread the news that, you could certainly learn a lot more by just joining and listening to what I may say. But it is my plan to have another meeting at least next week to give you a lot more details about, hey, we got the schedules. Hey, this is what we are doing. Hey, we may change this or that, but then we'll certainly need to put it in writing to those families also. They may not be able to join us on Zoom. All right, so we have a few minutes, and Mrs. Mariconda has been monitoring the chat room. And if we do not get to all the answers, once we meet again, those will be the themes that we will address as we have done tonight. All right, so Ms. Mariconda, if you could unmute yourself. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
So if you were able to put them into groups or themes, would be great.
So I think that the biggest question I'm seeing in the chat so far revolves around what students will be doing if they are remote learning at home, as well as what are they going to do while they're in the classroom, like what a picture of a class should look like.
Shannon, the answer to that question, I thought I kind of addressed it at the end. If I was home learning remotely, I will be using my Chromebook that the district has provided, and I will be signing in through ClassLink at 8 o'clock, and I will be following the same schedule of a student that is learning in school via the hybrid model. Okay?
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that students are doing the same exact thing with some minor changes to make it work remotely as well as in the classroom.
Yes, that is extremely important. And you know what else too that I may want to mention, if you will? Our superintendent, Dr. Estrella, has made it very clear that if a parent decides to have his or her son go from remote to hybrid, to give us 2-week notice, and we will bring that student via the hybrid model. The same goes if a parent says, you know what, the hybrid model is not for my daughter, I wanted to go remotely. We would do that in a day's notice. It's a lot easier to put someone on remote learning, but we would need 2 weeks to put that person into the hybrid model. Okay, so that is important. Parents still have flexibility as we start the year. All right, Ms. Maracanda, go ahead.
All right, another important question. There were questions about parents and families who don't have thermometers and how we know parents are, accurately reporting for their screening form.
That is really a very, very good question. So that is one that I'm meeting with Ms. Malinowski tomorrow morning. She and I are meeting at 7 o'clock at Roton to look at the isolation room for kids that may be sick while the parents come to pick them up. That is really a good question. How do we know? It is my hope, though, that if I were a parent and my son, may not feel well, that I may want to keep my son in school. Now, I also would suggest, and I get in trouble when I make recommendations, that if a kid is not feeling well and you do not have a thermometer to measure, you may want to keep that home or buy a thermometer. And maybe we could even have our PTA, if you will, get involved with that. There may be families that may not have one. We may be able to help out that way. But that is really a good question, which I will pose to Ms. Malinowski, the lady in charge of the health nursing department. And I made a note of it. That's a really good question. Thank you.
All right. Another question that was coming up. How often throughout the school day will maintenance be cleaning the building, such as important areas, classrooms, bathrooms, the library? And when kids are having recesses, this is when classrooms will be cleaned and sanitized.
All right, so if I heard you correctly, Shan, you said how long will the building be open to do cleaning?
Yeah, really what the cleaning procedures and protocols are going to be.
Okay, so the building is open till 11 o'clock every day. We have an afternoon or evening staff. Their main job is to clean and disinfect the building, each and every classroom, each and every desk, each and every bathroom, hallway, everything you could think of. But during the day, the bathrooms will be cleaned at least twice. When students go to, let's say, from French to art, because that is the only time they're going to be moving during the related arts time, we were talking about having those Lysol wipes or spray that then we will clean each desk before the kids leave and get ready for the next group. So that is the plan right now. We need to take a look a little bit closer. When I met with Bill O'Dell, he's actually talking about some type of spray that is really very good to use for cleaning purposes, in addition to what the custodians will be doing. Okay. I wanted to give Ms. Chaparro a chance because Ms. Chaparro has been monitoring the chat room from our families that may prefer Spanish, if you will. Ms. Chaparro, anything come your way?
Parents want to know about the stagger entry you were mentioning by 8 o'clock or at 8:15 by grades. Yep. If that's set in stones, will they get a confirmation?
Yes, so each and every family will get an indicator on what a house the student is in. And there it will say, okay, if you are in the west house, you will be coming in, let's say, through door 38, through door 8. And we will be out there guiding the kids. And my sense is after the first day or two, the kids will really know which door to come in, right? We will be out there really helping kids, keeping 6 feet apart, if you will. But they will know. I just do not want to give information out and then tomorrow we meet with the superintendent's office and things change. So I'm a little bit hesitant about giving, even though we have the plans. I want to be more, certain in what we're going to be communicating. All right.
And the other question is, I asked already, Shannon.
Okay.
The student that will start on September 8th will be the A group and the cohort 8, right?
Say that again. I did not hear that.
The first group that will start on September 8th.
Yes.
That will be the group A.
Yes.
A, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So once we meet with the superintendent's office tomorrow, we will finalize a schedule, which will mirror the high school schedule. Once that is done, we could then say, yep, you are group A through M, and you come in, let's say, September 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then group B will come in, let's say, the 11th, and the next, let's say, 4 school days, if that's the schedule we're going to use. But they will know that certainly before they come to school. I want to, because I know it's 7:01, I want to say a couple of words, and that is, I apologize for muting people as you came in this morning, but I know that when we met last week, some people had a difficult time hearing because of the background noise. So my apologies, but I think that's the best way to hold a meeting, by muting people and keeping people, background noises away. And I also appreciate those of you that have been very, very helpful in making suggestions. I do read what parents say. At times, I may pass that on to other people to respond to you, but I really appreciate your positive contributions. And I also appreciate a couple of you that were not so nice to me. Even though I've been a principal for almost 30 years, every day is different. And every, school year is extremely different. So I appreciate the comments, the communication, and remember what I said, we may not have it all together, but together we're going to have it all. So thank you, Ms. Chaparro, Ms. Maricanta, the house leaders who were on, the counselors who were on, and I wish all of you a wonderful evening, and we'll talk again soon. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much.